Hello and welcome to Weekly Open. It's a recorded version because something about streaming is being goofy today, but that's okay. We are here. It's myself, Josh, and Don. Before we get to it, let me tell you about our partners over at FTX. That's right, not Blockfolio anymore. They've rebranded fully to FTX, but it's the same app you've known and loved for ages. You do all the same things we talk about every week on Weekly Open. Just go to weeklyopen.com/FTX. Swap directly from one asset to the other. You know the deal. Track your coins, track your portfolio, all the stuff you've known and loved since 2014. You can still do it right there on FTX. We'll get new videos and fun stuff later. In the meantime, go to weeklyopen.com/FTX, and thanks to them for being our partners on Weekly Open. Gentlemen, how you doing?
Very good. Very good.
Excellent.
How are you?
I'm doing okay. Our streaming is not working today, so it's not a live show. We'll just have to deal with it. We still have plenty to talk about, and this will be up right after we're done. So it's as good as live. We just won't have everyone's questions and commentary in the chat. Josh, how are you?
Good. I mean, ETH has had quite a run. BTC quite a run.
Yeah,
it's still awkward. Like, it's great, but it's still awkward.
Well, today, if it closes green, today would be the 13th green candle in a row for Ethereum.
Does that ever happen? I mean,
No,
technically,
it is the longest ever green streak.
Technically, on Coinbase, July 28th was red, but it closed basically doji. But yeah, I mean, isn't
where I was looking. It was green.
Yeah, Bitfinex is green, actually.
Okay. All right. Let's just talk about Bitfinex.
Oh, is it? No, it's red too.
Okay.
It's just tiny, but it's red.
I'm looking at the TradingView Coinbase chart right now, and they're all green.
Look at this.
I mean,
yeah.
There's a red one in there.
In any case, very, 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 very unusual to see this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe first time ever. Like, I can see periods of 9 green candles in a row pretty frequently throughout any given run, but 13? That is be careful, just regardless of what this looks like territory, because eventually it's going to, markets are going to market, right? Like, people are going to say this is EIP 1559, buy the rumor, sell the news type of stuff. I don't necessarily agree with that. I just think the timing's just whatever,
The timing is quite impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude. I think it is. I mean, 1559 is going into effect in about under 3 days. I think it's estimated to be on Thursday right now. Seems like the pre-pump at a bare minimum.
It just doesn't make sense to buy it before and then sell it after. Like, that's not how EIP 1559 is going to work anyway. But I guess people are just buying hype potentially. The other thing that's been happening is that CryptoPunks NFT, I'll say garbage because I could care less, honestly, but that seems to have a massive effect on ETH lately, which is good. I don't care the reason. I don't care if it's ICO scams. I don't care if it's NFT scams. Like, I don't care. Like, number go up. Let's go. Right.
You just like the pump.
Right.
All right. So first of all, I have to show y'all. This is the Coinbase Ethereum chart, and that candle is green on Coinbase. But yes, that daily was flat.
I'm literally looking at it right now. It's not green.
It's green on mine. It's green on mine.
All right, whatever.
Anyway, the Bitcoin chart's basically the same, except for it met resistance really right at the very bottom of my personal yellow chart, or yellow box of resistance. It was like, didn't even work its way into it yet. However, I actually think that it could work, get back up there for some kind of divergent leg thrust. I see 44, 45K as pretty severe resistance. I actually think we hit local support if you're going to do like really tight support levels after that many days up. But man, to your point about 1559, we made a higher high on the daily on ETH BTC, and looks like it's actually going to make the more even bigger kind of higher high level over there at 0.068. I mean, ETH BTC looks strong. BTC looks like it recovered significantly. ETH looks quite strong. This is a different story than where we were the past couple of weeks. I want to go ahead and just get my personal analysis out of the way, and then Don can tell us what he thinks. But the one highlight that I want to make in terms of being cautious is in the 2018 bear market, 2019, we got smacked by the 20-week moving average over and over again. When we lost it, it was the end of the bull. We're still under it on BTC. It's right around 44K, very high confluence with the 200-day moving average. I will be very cautious if Bitcoin gets to 44K, but we're seeing this divergence of Bitcoin and ETH significantly, and to the degree where Ethereum recaptured it and just looks like hyper bullish on the weekly to me. At the same time that it is like, I don't even know what you call this on the daily, just like putting people on the sidelines in shambles, I guess. At the same time that ETH BTC looks strong. However, I'm still going to use this Bitcoin 45K as my temperature check, even if I'm not in Bitcoin. That's my personal thoughts on the market, where I'm at, what I'm thinking. Don, what say you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty nice to the upside, right? I mean, it's just legitimately just reclaimed resistance, first at 31.5 and then mooned, and then again at 35 and then mooned again to the next one. What happened now, like in the last few days, over the weekend basically, is that it did reclaim another resistance, but that didn't act as support, so failed. I would call that like a failed breakout. I think like as long as you trade below there, I think it actually makes sense to retrace a little. But it's actually closed a higher high on the weekly, which is pretty nice. That opens the door. Like if you wanna be bullish, I think you can be bullish, like with like having 38K as your invalidation. Like let's say this weekly goes down a little, starts wicking into like the 36, 35 range, right? That would be an interesting buy to me going into like the weekly close at 38K, like something like this.
If you
wick down and then close back up. And then we can actually go a little bit higher. I could see that.
Yeah. If you go back to that daily chart real quick, do you think it's legitimate? So, you know, the first local highs before they got swept by the top there, where your red line is based off of. So in May and June, those right there.
Yeah.
Do you think those are reasonable candle closes that you could call like where this might consolidate from? That's what.
Oh, you mean like something like this in this area?
That's right. That's essentially, I'm treating everything above that below your red rectangle as kind of a consolidation area, like a deep support within this local region. Is that silly in your mind in terms of just playing level to level, or what?
No, I think it's fine. Like if you want to, it always depends kind of on your market outlook, right? Right now I'm not like really bearish. Like if anything, I think it makes sense to be looking for buys. That doesn't change the fact that I think this is probably still a bear market rally. But like, let's say we go and test somewhere lower, like 35K, I want to be a buyer there, take it to like mid 40s, maybe high 40s. But in general, yeah, I think like if you're on the bullish side of things and you want to be like positioned, I think it makes sense to kind of have that 39K level as your invalidation. And then you can buy here, hope for the breakout, or just buy above red. So what you can do is like you sell below green and then buy above red. And that works too if you want to be like a little bit, if you don't want to treat this as like a range fake out or any kind of fake breakout, I think that makes sense. Personally, I'm much rather going to be like looking for wicks on the weekly, basically. Like that's the weekly, that seems reasonably clear right now. Like double fake outs are rare, right? So it makes sense that like this has some follow through. Like let's say people get wicked out this week, I think there's a good chance that it kind of shows strength into the weekend. And if it does, I think there's a good chance that next week is going to be quite the green candle again. And that's what I want to kind of capitalize on if I can. Like, let's see how this week goes. Like for me, this is technically on the daily, it's looking like it wants to head lower, and on the weekly, it looks like it wants to head higher. That means like I want to be looking for kind of buying opportunities as low as I can get it, because the higher time frames are usually more important to me, and the lower time frames just provide an opportunity basically to take advantage of the higher time frames. And that's kind of what my plan is. But I like the idea of like being a little bit short time frame bearish below 39 and then bullish above 40.
Yeah. I just found it a convenient support where people are like, oh yeah, you lost 40K or, that prior high that we just punched through. Mm-hmm. And then like, you get chopped up on the reverse direction trying to play it to the downside. So it's like exactly what you were just talking about. Like, I want to buy this at 35 or whatever is down there. And, you end up getting swept a bit by this existing kind of sneakier level.
I honestly think like and this is something that you always have to consider, right? If you're like super bullish and you think, okay, I need to get in on something, right? If you don't buy like a decent level, and it goes higher, you're going to be the guy that buys the top. We talked about this last week and it played out pretty nicely well. It's like, if you want to FOMO early, right? And I mean, this is like the first level after like this range breakout that you could be FOMOing into. And I mean, if you're going to FOMO anyway, might as well buy that. And if you're not going to FOMO, if you have like kind of like a strict rule set, I mean, 45 close above there, I think looks really good.
Don, I don't think you really use RSI or that type of more momentum based stuff, but I could see it ending up looking something like this, where Josh, you end up with like a bear div and do play into that supply on higher highs, and then you dump it from there. I feel like this is a pretty painful outlook, and people would be so very bullish right into the 200-day moving average, right into this kind of overhead zone that also would be kind of banging into the supports from the highs. Those were the initial supports when we dumped down from the highs. I think this could very well play out and trap some people higher. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think we sound bullish enough, frankly. We retraced 62 days of gross chop in 9 days, right? We went up 42%. So that's an insane move for anything, even in crypto. Obviously, we led with ETH's 12, 13 days of green. So that's like a momentum shifter big time. So yeah, I think it's definitely a buy the dip. I don't think any of us are like bearish, but
I'm not bearish at all. I think this is the type of thing that could get people in trouble expecting all-time highs imminently. You know what I mean?
Well, I was waiting for a dip and we just kept going up. So it's like, now what do I do? Right? Like now I just wait for a bigger dip because it doesn't look as good as it did a couple of days ago. That doesn't mean I'm not bullish about it. But yeah, we could get a bear div on a higher high and into like 47 or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still like it. And by the way, your 200-day moving average is inferior to my 200-day EMA.
Show it to me. Share your screen. Show it, sir.
We are at the 200. It says I can't share right now. We are at the 200 EMA.
You can share now.
We're
at it right now as support.
Yeah.
Well then.
So I don't know if this will or won't hold, but point is, it looks good. The fact that it broke above it and it's wicking into it. So if this does hold, then I'll get more bullish. If we golden cross, I'll get more bullish. I think in a perfect world, we just go sideways for the next month.
Also,
honestly.
Inside the cloud would say what, 46, 47 is a magnet?
Yeah. So what I was saying with the cloud the other day is that we're so far above the Kijun, even though this is technically an edge-to-edge trade, your stop loss for this is 35, 36. So like the risk reward on that isn't great. So it's much better if this thing just kind of like droops down and then like attempts this again. I don't know. It's messy. Another reason why I got uncomfortable about buying.
here.
all the way up here, because at this point the average is like way down here at 39 when we were at 40, or 35 when we were at 40 rather.
I'm gonna doodle on your cloud to provide the same exact type of setup that I was talking about before. I could totally imagine that, right? Like you go slam the top of it and then you walk down inside the cloud back to the 35 range, like, and then you just end up getting chopped all the way through August, basically. Like, how painful would that be? No one would be happy. I find some delight in that.
I can definitely see that happening for sure.
That's a very cloud thing to do as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So I like 47 a lot. I just don't know how we're going to get there, what it's going to look like. And it's not like it's a high conviction target, but it's the trade setup is just kind of just murky. And at this point, it's like the move is done.
Here's what I think is going to happen. I think it's going to wick high like that, 46, 47, to make that cloud top type of thing. Also make it look like it's reclaimed a lot of those levels on the left-hand side, and then get a daily close like at that kind of 44K range. The weekly close is also, or the weekly resistance on my chart for the 20 week is at 43.6. So I could see that type of thing. You get a wick up here and then a closing candle here. It's just the type of thing that I know we're just drawing imaginary pictures and stuff. But when you're trying to anticipate what could happen intra-week, intra-day, I could see that type of relative strength, especially if, ETH keeps going up and, blows the lid off a little bit, drags Bitcoin with it, and then everything tapers back down. All that from a narrative perspective makes a lot of sense to me. That's like Ethereum over 3K, pumping into 1559. I don't know.
I don't. The problem that I have right now with the entire market is that garbage is pumping again, and
yeah, that's what I was gonna say too.
What kind of garbage? Talk to me.
I mean, you have NFTs going completely nuts, and people are like, okay, yeah, this is the future, and then you have like the biggest garbage out of them all, like go completely crazy. Now, I'm not an expert on NFTs, and I'm actually going to talk about like NFTs with a guest on Friday on my show to kind of see where their head's at. But like for me, some of the stuff I'm seeing is kind of like the ICO mania back in 17, 18. And then you have like that combined with Bitcoin having done like a major leg down, and then bouncing. And in that bounce, we get like this massive kind of NFT craze bubble, whatever, like people in real life that I actually know like are starting on NFT projects. Like I've never seen anything like it, not even with the ICO stuff. Like everyone seems to be like all in this, and I don't like it too much. Like not that I don't like NFTs, I just don't like the kind of combination of Bitcoin having broken down completely, like rallied a little bit, get like hopes back up, and then like to me anyway, like some garbage stuff just goes up and runs. ETH outperforms Bitcoin again. Like if that continues, I think like this is like legitimately going to be the complacency bounce off the bear market that you want to be selling in general. If it doesn't, like if it's just like a short-lived like craze, I mean, that's nice. Then I could see us just like do the double bubble thing. But right now, like I haven't really looked into it enough to kind of make a strong case about like NFTs being like the next ICO thing that kind of, because we had like an old season-ish after the Bitcoin top in 2018, right? And now we have like
it was huge on a dollar basis, but people got stuck because it didn't ever make new highs on a Bitcoin relative basis.
Yeah, now we have like we have NFTs kind of going in the same direction where like a bunch of people jump in, put their money into something even more illiquid than ICOs, right? I mean, if the craze kind of slows down, there's no way you're going to get your money out, right? So you're kind of dependent on one, you really like what you're buying, right? You're fine with like putting 10 ETH into like some garbage picture, or like some land on a garbage game, I mean, that's fine, right?
Don, people are about to get so mad at us if we don't do some caveating of this NFT stuff.
No, I mean,
what caveating is there to do? It's all relative value. Like people think it's worth money, other people don't. Like that's the thing caveats.
The thing is, like, I'm not shit talking NFTs in general. Like the only thing that I'm shit talking is like the stuff that I've been seeing that is pumping seems pretty damn shitty to me. Now, like that doesn't have to mean like NFTs in general are shit, because I think there's probably a lot of stuff in there that's going to be super, super interesting. It's just like the stuff that I'm seeing that is going up isn't the stuff that should be going up, or like, in my opinion anyway. And that's like not a very well educated opinion. It's just like in my head, it kind of feels the same way as the ICO craze did back then. And if that's the case, right, if it plays out the same way, kind of like we have Bitcoin. And this is what happened too, right? If you look back in 18, right, Bitcoin went kind of like sideways before completely breaking down during that like crazy time in the market when the altcoins ran. And if that's like the same thing that we're getting right now, just like in a little bit of a different part of the crypto ecosystem, then I think maybe this bear market is going to be like a couple of years long. So yeah, I don't like that. But in general, like the Bitcoin chart in itself doesn't look too bad. Like I'm not bearish on that. I just don't like that relationship. So if Bitcoin starts like breaking down again, I mean, then I'll have to kind of assume that we're in for a long bear market, because like this is not how I see the market kind of turning around.
What's an example for you of NFTs that shouldn't carry their current value? Because a lot of the activities going on due to large buyers and punks that kicked off a floating up of many NFTs. But yeah, we did see punk prices for floor punks, if y'all know what that means. I think they went up like 40-50% in just a few days. But it was kicked off by essentially someone spending some gargantuan amount of money to buy like 100 punks, floor punks, and then someone else was buying, Three Arrows Capital was one of the ones being rumored buying like some millions of dollars worth of punks. And then essentially the speculation curled out from there to raising floors on many other NFT collections. But punks is definitely where the vast majority of dollars in activity occurred.
Yeah, I'm not hating on those.
It's a millionaire circle jerk with a few people cornering the market, and that's fine. But the problem is a bunch of people are going to get super burned, not knowing any better. A fool and his money are easily parted, right? So whatever, it is what it is. But
I would say the liquidity on punks is far better than.
Go ahead. I wasn't finished, but go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You just go ahead. You just go ahead.
No, I just said the liquidity on punks is better than many projects. So I agree with y'all. I mean, I caught a lot of crap for basically calling a top of sorts, at least a local top. Because I agree with you. I think people buying after those like large buys, those speculators that did the initial buys, they could already sell and make millions and millions of dollars. But people are now watching those collections. So if they start selling, the liquidity could dry up really quickly. A lot of reasons why liquidity could dry up, why prices could go temporarily back down. So I think if you're speculating, trying to flip them, playing hot potato, it's dangerous. I think if you're in these high-end crypto punks, I look at like the OpenSea volume and it's insane, you know. And maybe some of these like highest tier collections can continue to do well. But overall, I agree with you. It sounds a lot like stuff did with altcoins back in 2017, 2018. Like I've seen people, I heard someone on a Twitter Spaces basically saying like, yeah, I came from, you know, crappy DeFi projects to this, and I'm like, they're just chasing the next thing. Like they're not in it for the art or like they're in it for the tech meme. So right. Josh, I'm not trying to disagree with you. I do think like some stand above.
Too late. You already disagree with me. I'm just going to interrupt you. Like, no, I'm kidding. Well, the biggest thing too is we had outside money like Gary Vaynerchuk spent $3.7 million on, I don't know if it was one CryptoPunk or multiple or whatever, but that also has an insane influence on NFTs. Obviously, it's not just like 3AC circle jerk, poker people circle jerk, which is a lot of what the NFT stuff is. It's like outside people coming in with millions of dollars. It's becoming like cultural in a sense that it's catching on beyond just crypto people.
I mean, I think in general, like I'm not like CryptoPunks is actually one of the projects I wouldn't hate on, not because I think like it's a great buy right now. Like I just think whenever you have something that like is kind of, because CryptoPunks are kind of the face of NFTs, right? And that's, I think, like whenever you buy something high profile like that, you're probably gonna like have your money not like your investment or whatever you want to call it not go to zero, right? I'd be very surprised if punks just disappeared. But whatever, like whenever that happens, when punks go up, people are like, okay, punks went up. So, or like anything else that is like higher profile in the NFT space. Yeah. And then they're looking for the next thing and then they buy complete garbage, pay like a shitload for it. And then obviously other people see prices go up and rush in those two. And I think there's a bunch of stuff that's getting pumped that is going to go to like
zero or near
basically zero. Yeah. And it's like, I mean, pick your kind of battles wisely. The only problem is that you can't really buy like into a punk if you like the average investor or like whatever. You can only afford like the shitty ones, and the shitty ones are going to zero in my mind.
Or fractional ones. But yeah, I saw people hyping up bored bananas yesterday, which is what this one is right here. It's like, and then there's clones of everything because, you know, bored banana is just a play on bored apes. Bored apes were minted for 0.07 and now the average price or the floor price is like 9 ETH or something. And out of bored apes, they came out with donkeys and cats and ducks and goons.
Yeah, I mean, that's so inflationary if you think about it, right? You can make infinite amount of that. Yeah. And then at some point the money's going to run out, right? Like at some point, everyone that wants an NFT has an NFT.
It's a massive liquidity fracture that occurs.
Yeah,
I agree completely. I don't disagree whatsoever. I think what could happen is that NFTs overall could grow a lot. Like OpenSea volume could be maintained for quite a long time, but be so spread out that individual collections outside of the top tier may hurt. You know what I mean? So like the average price could go down or not maintain these high levels at the same time that overall NFT volumes maintains very high numbers. It's just,
yeah, I'm happy people are flipping and making money. I'm happy people who are artists are making money, you know, whatever. That's great. But just be careful. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's very deceiving. I think the people who aren't aware of what's going on. You know, we saw this with the other NFTs like Magic Cards and Martin Shkreli and buying up, basically cornering the market, you know, buying up the floor punks essentially in the MTG space. There's plenty of stories on that you can look up. But this is a tale as old as time. So don't get bamboozled by what looks to you perhaps, or some people like this new paradigm when it's actually just same shit, different day, you know? So the reason I pay attention to it is mainly for the ETH side of things and looking at weekly transactions and volume. So again, I don't care what the scam is, but people are using ETH to buy these things, right? So that's good for ETH, obviously. And CryptoPunks volume obviously way up on a weekly basis. Axie is still, I don't hear too many people talking about that over the past week, but
it's going bananas still
that's still exploding. And the Top Shot stuff kind of fell off pretty rapidly over the past couple of weeks with Axie.
The decisions of the creators of these have massive impacts on what happens in my mind because like Top Shots, they just kept minting new ones. So that the inflation that you're talking about, Don, it's like if you kind of reduce the rarity when they just kept creating new ones. And so then died off kind of altogether. Nevertheless, we all need to talk to people that are more deeply embedded in that system, but it's worth noting, here's the other element of this that I enjoy. So the EIP 1559 activation, 2 days, 20 hours, 20 minutes, 20 seconds. Look at that. That's a nice little screen grab. Estimated time to activation. And I think if I were a gigabrain and I was like wanting fees to be higher so that the initial EIP 1559 activation looked more bullish, why not pump NFTs to get the volume up and get the gas prices up so that 1559 is burning a lot of ETH out of the gate after those record low fees? This is my conspiracy theory for why someone may like to see a big pump in NFTs right before 1559, because the difference between the average gas price being like 10 Gwei versus like 30 Gwei is a huge effect on 1559. So this is my conspiracy theory. What do y'all think about that?
Speaking of gas, did those stoner cats, I haven't seen anything on those other than the initial release.
Yeah, they did the initial release. They sold out, and a bunch of people had failed transactions from the gas issues, and Ashton Kutcher is apparently actually going to refund or repay those failed transaction fees from the people that didn't ever get a cat. So
well, good for him.
Yeah. I actually think theirs is interesting because it's going to essentially be NFTs that represent a stake in the TV show, which is kind of cool. I don't know. It's at least better than a profile picture, right?
I concur. It's something.
But yeah, look, I like this. I like this chart, Josh. The average gas price, like when Gwei was the average Gwei, whatever, for a transaction was like sub 10, sub 15. It's not near as bullish for 1559, but when it's like 30s and 40s, a lot more ETH is going to get burned as 1559 activates. This is my conspiracy theory. What do you think about it?
I like that, and I'd also like to see them saying we want to lower the ceiling on gas. That would really have an effect on gas prices.
How does that?
Similar to like, well, they raised the gas ceiling. Miners can vote on that and change that, so they could very easily do the other thing, I think, which is just lower the ceiling. I haven't seen anybody talk about that, but like if you want to make EIP 1559 bullish, like you're saying, yeah, bring the fees way up and lower that ceiling. I can bring up that chart, but they had raised it a couple times, and Peter, I can never say his last name, SZIL, whatever, who maintains something on ETH, was like, this is dangerous, blah, blah, blah. We can't keep doing this. So I'm surprised he hasn't come out and said, let's lower the gas ceiling. It's kind of like the block size, but not exactly the same.
Interesting.
Here's this. This is the chart. So they raised it a couple times to alleviate gas pressure. But when you do this, it leads to increasing centralization because certain nodes can't keep up, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So what they could do is say, all right, let's just lower the ceiling. Why not?
That'd be fun. It's bullish. We like high expensive gas.
Yeah.
All right. I want to talk about DeFi a little bit before we go. This is the DeFi perp relative to ETH. I like kind of keeping an eye on this chart to see if it's worth holding DeFi or just holding more liquid ETH that has more fundamental stuff coming up. I wonder also with the activation of 1559 if this chart could see a rebound. It looks like it's really trying to grind along this bottom, around this 3 ratio on DeFi versus ETH. Do y'all think that makes sense? Because a lot of these dollar charts on DeFi look very, very decent. They're consolidating, but like maybe they want some additional rebound. Maybe they are bottoming. Speaking my bags here, but I still like Compound. Josh, I know you've been holding Compound, but it's decently representative of several where they've made some kind of bottom and now they look like they're attempting upside. Do y'all have any interest in DeFi at these prices? Yay, nay? What say you?
I honestly think, like, for me in general, like, ETH is still more interesting. I don't really see a good reason to take on more risk when ETH's moving like it's doing, and even more so like coming into news, right? I mean, we're gonna get like the EIP thing. We're gonna get like something ETH centric that is gonna hit So I'd be very surprised if like the focus would shift somewhere else. That's why like I think it makes sense to kind of focus on ETH. But I mean, we're getting at least some bounces on DeFi stuff, even against like Bitcoin, even against ETH. So like it's not like I'm super bearish on it. I just think like my effort and my time is better spent just focusing on ETH and seeing where that's gonna go. And then I look at ETH and I'm like, okay, my time and effort is better spent on Bitcoin. So it's kind of like the altcoins. I don't know, like it's pretty tough right now because Bitcoin is so hard to judge, right? Like Bitcoin's still in this awkward spot where it's really hard to say whether it's like it has actually bottomed or like where it's going to go, right? For me, it's like really difficult. Like I don't want to be overly bearish or bullish here. So the kind of altcoin view is a really difficult one because if you're not sure where Bitcoin is going to go, it's really easy to be caught off guard in the altcoins, even more so when when ETH, for example, has been pumping, the NFT stuff has been going up. When you don't know where Bitcoin's going to go and Bitcoin pulls the rug on you, right? You're stuck in like ETH or like even more in more illiquid DeFi pairs. Yeah, it sucks. And that's why, like, for me, not too interested. But I do like the USD charts that you've kind of thrown up. Like, they don't look bearish to me.
Yeah. Josh, what do you think?
I think if you want to play DeFi, you just have to take a stand at one point and say, yeah, like I can eat a 20% plus drawdown in a day because that's just DeFi, right?
Or even a relative drawdown. Like if ETH.
Oh, yeah. Like if I'm in DeFi, I'm just not even paying attention to the drawdown because I'm assuming that I'm going to be correct in that eventually like comp BTC will turn around. I haven't even looked at that chart. I should probably do that, but
it actually looks fantastic. Like it looks like it's made its own higher low relative to BTC. Relative to ETH, it's dicier.
So yeah, I don't think you can pay attention to that. I really don't. Like you're either convicted that, or you have conviction that comp or whatever is going to outperform both BTC and ETH and everything else, or you don't. And if you don't, then you don't enter that USD pair because it's just too much to think about. It's like this stuff can move up crazy percentages in a day relative to, it took 9 days for BTC to move 42%. This DeFi stuff can move up 20% in a day. So it's hard to like, at least for me, it's hard to like think about that in those terms.
And I think that plays to your point, Don, of like, why bother is just upside greed, right? Like that's what that's why I'm doing it. I want the reflexivity for when that move occurs, but timing it for that move is very difficult. Like the amount of times I've traded in and out of at least partials of my comp position is like kind of insane as I try to carry this trade. Like Don, I've talked to you about this comp position ever since it was in the low 200s. But if I held it all the way through from the last time it hit 500, like I would be in, that's total pain, right? Because Bitcoin and ETH did amazing during that time. So I had to try to figure out like, when do I lower my position? When do I increase my position? And it's a difficult game to play. I agree with you there. But the upside, if it goes to the targets that I have up at like $700, I have a much easier time picturing comp at 700 than I picture like ETH at, I don't know, 4,000, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true. I think in general, like you're going to make more, you're risking more too, right? So you're kind of like, it's trading at least somewhat like trading ETH on leverage, because generally speaking, they do tend to move like somewhat in unison, not always, but like most of the time. It's just like a question of, do you want to do that or not? And I think like for a lot of people, the answer is actually yes. For me, it's like I'm right now kind of in vacation mode. Like I don't want to be spending my time like getting in and out of position, kind of reevaluating every 8 to like 12 hours or something. So for me, it's not like what I want to be doing. But I think like if you have the time and if you have the skill to do it, I mean, why not, right?
Yeah, I think you can play the rotation game pretty easily by just like saying, okay, where's ETH at? Okay, it's broke up from its W, right? It's moving into its extension, measured move, whatever you want to call it. And then you say, all right, what does DeFi look like? Well, I know this chart's a mess, but DeFi's W hasn't moved past resistance yet. And so you say, all right, this one, I know where this one's going to go based on ETH, most likely. So I'm just going to rotate into that. Or we look at comp, like Ledger's talking about. You can say, all right, it's time to rotate my ETH position into comp because comp looks like it's going to resolve a certain way. It hasn't yet, but it's getting there. And the target is whatever the target is, right? Based on ETH's resistance, I agree. Like I have a harder time seeing 4K ETH than like 650 comp or something like that.
Yeah.
And Balancer is the same way. Like here's a W, here's an inverted head and shoulders. You know, you may think all these protocols are not great or whatever, or have no purpose, kind of like me. But the charts look great to me. They look really good for bottom reversal type of stuff.
And at the same time, I just look at this ETH BTC chart, and it's funny because it looked near disastrous, right? At 0.058 or so. And then it just like the USD pairs did at the lows, it like swept a low and then just went turbo. And this just looks insane now. Like it just looks like it wants to go to the highs, like above 0.084, I think is the target you called out, Josh. It looks like it wants to blast past that to me. Like the weekly ETH BTC, this is the strongest indicator to me that's like maybe we have more speculation to do in this market. You know, like nothing about this weekly ETH BTC chart says like, oh yeah, we're in the middle innings of a bear market. Not like what we saw back in 2018.
That I can agree with. I mean, it doesn't look bad to me either. It's just like ETH's been like really, really choppy in the last few weeks in my mind. Like it's been looking at your pattern. I mean, that looks pretty cleanish, but like the price action it's done, it chopped pretty much everyone up, right? So for me, it's been like, I kind of was pretty certain that it would be choppy. So I've been kind of staying out of it, but yeah, I do agree. Like this breakout, this recent one isn't a bad one. And if that like kind of confirms, and this is like always my going like kind of thesis for like this kind of stuff, is when like ETH goes like completely ballistic, then you're gonna have to like Bitcoin's probably gonna get dragged up with it for some time, and then the bit's just gonna be missing, and then Bitcoin's gonna collapse.
Nuke across the board.
Yep. So it's like, you don't want to like if ETH BTC starts like going even higher, I think Bitcoin's actually like might get some tailwind for like a certain amount of time, but then you're in high danger of just getting completely rolled over, and that wouldn't be unlike what we've seen in the past. So like for me, you can trade this, and I think there's good money to be made if you do. It's just you gotta be like, when it gets like completely euphoric on like ETH BTC pairs or like in general altcoin Bitcoin pairs, that's when you gotta be really, really careful, because if Bitcoin pulls the rug on you while you're watching like all the other pairs and everything, like it's not gonna matter how good it looks, right? The moment Bitcoin just kind of crashes, you're gonna be crashing alongside with it, no matter where you are. So. And that's just like my warning for this kind of stuff. It
is so hard to buy after this many days up on the USD pairs, right? I do want to highlight.
Which is another reason why I'd rather rotate into stuff that hasn't moved yet, right? It's just like the simple rotation play. Like lizard brain, number go up over here too many days, number doesn't go up over here enough.
So I do want to highlight the potential for getting these DeFi moves could be ETH having a couple of days, like you just mentioned, Don. Like, I don't know if y'all remember this. I remember it vividly. ETH nuked on the daily, got bought up big time, and then consolidated for a couple of weeks. And that was the absolute domination of kind of DeFi markup, late January, early February. And I could see that playing out again, where you do get some kind of retest on ETH in the low 2300s or something like that. But a lot of once it recovers, it kind of grinds higher, and that could be when we see these measured moves play out on the DeFi pairs. Now that's really my bags talking, but I could see that type of fractal playing out, and that is the way these flows do tend to happen sometimes. So I'm going to be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, I don't know. I guess the chart for me to watch is ETH-BTC on the week to see basically where do I want to maintain my primary exposure. What do y'all think? What are you watching this week?
Same deal. Like I'm watching Bitcoin first and foremost, because like the thing is, like, I don't think people realize like how close we are to just like breaking to the upside. Like, I mean, I'm not the biggest bull like in general, but when you have like these kind of amounts of green days, right, people start to say, okay, and we've talked about this today too, where it's like, okay, this is way too much, right? And it goes down a little and it goes up way more. We've seen that like plenty of times. So if we get like sustained strength on Bitcoin, I could actually see like Bitcoin start sucking other stuff dry again. Like that would be my bullish case for Bitcoin. Then I would think like, okay, we're going much, much higher. If the opposite happens and we see like the altcoins kind of sucking Bitcoin dry, then I think we're in for another drop. Because like whenever you're this close to breakout to the bullish side, right, the risk is quite high for you to be bullish, but the reward is obviously also high, right? So I think we're pretty close to kind of either ending. In general, I think we're pretty close to ending the crab. Basically, is what I'm saying. I think there's not going to be too much longer of like just sideways.
Don,
so we're either gonna
makes me happy.
So yeah, I think we're either gonna like get altcoins sucking Bitcoin dry, and then we're gonna head lower, or we're gonna see Bitcoin just kind of get strong again and beat the altcoins to pulp, and then I think we're gonna go higher. That's kind of like my view on the market. So I'm gonna be watching Bitcoin first, but yeah, ETH-BTC is also really important, just based on the fact that, I mean, it's not that far off of the highs that it set like in May. And if it goes any higher than that, it's getting really, really close to like previous 2018 kind of levels of dominance. And I mean, that's getting into like kind of very close to like the flipping kind of thesis again, which I mean, it's going to be interesting for the market in general. So I'll be watching both. And I think ETH is going to be more interesting than most other altcoins, just based on the fact that it has news coming up and it has something like where people are uncertain about like what it's actually going to, like how big the impact is going to be.
And how many people are saying 1559 is a sell the news event? Like that seems almost universal, and I don't agree. I really don't agree. Anyway, Josh.
Yeah.
Yes, I do think the majors have moved too much too soon. And I think rotation into anything that hasn't moved is fine. It's kind of it, really. I don't know. Like, really the big thing is volume. I think volume is still like nothing compared to
summer doldrum volume. I mean, we really did. It
doesn't make sense that we moved up this much on such little volume, honestly. It just like the floors on the punks moving up. It's like one call buyer for BTC and ETH like moved the entire market, or at least started to move the market, along with negative funding.
It's such a summer meme, man. Like we're just like all the other markets, sell in May and go away, come back when school starts. Like what the heck? What a boring market we've become.
Well, it's just so weird. It's like we mean reverted. I want to be bullish. Volume's still junk. I don't know. Like I feel like if you're not in it already, you just missed it. I feel like because the risk reward, at least in the near term.
Yeah, I did. I talked about it on Twitter how like I don't even think this has been a short squeeze. It's just been a sideline squeeze. Like anyone that was sidelined is in absolute misery and pain. Because not that many people were short, but a lot of people were sidelined.
Yeah.
So I think in general, like the best advice is probably still just like go enjoy your summer and do something else with your time. I mean, this is just like, this could be either chop or like the reversal, but in general, you're only ever going to know when it like goes towards 50K, I think, with Bitcoin. And with ETH, it's the same thing, right? Like if you sold the highs on ETH and it goes above 3.3K again, I mean, then might as well just buy back and hope you didn't buy like the complacency shoulder. And if you did, just get the fuck out quickly again. But like, until that happens, right? I mean, it's just gonna be boring, and I mean, the bottom's always gonna be boring, right? Like, it doesn't have to. Like, people are always looking at like bottoms, like the March bottom, where it's like
want that capitulation, yeah.
Yeah, but like bottoms, at least like in Bitcoin's history, have been consistently like boring, and this could be boring for longer. I just think like in general, like it has done enough that like if this is really bear market and we had like one time higher and then don't break down, like then I think the bear market thesis is invalidated. And the same thing is true, like if it can't move higher from here, right? I mean, that just looks really fucking shitty. So I hope, at least my hope is that it's actually going to be time to move soon again.
Next time we talk, 44K will have been hit. That's my prediction. Thanks for joining us, everybody. You like how I just got in that last word there, Don?
Yeah, I did.
Appreciate y'all being here. We'll catch you next time. Go to weeklyopen.com/FTX. Make trades there, track your portfolio, do all the stuff you know and love, want to do. You can do it on FTX. weeklyopen.com/FTX. Thanks so much. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.